In 2012, Sid co-founded an organization called Elemental Water Makers to develop sustainable desalination technology to enable access to affordable fresh water using the sea, wind, and sun. Sid is the CEO of a company that is currently active in over 10 countries on 5 continents. Sid Vollebregt, welcome to the show. Let's first start with, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Is it Vollebregt?
Yeah, it's but I think
Vollebregt. Okay.
the G and the R are difficult enough. Thanks.
These are good. All right, Sid, tell us a little bit about your work with desalination.
Yeah, I definitely. I prepared a short presentation, so I'm gonna take you through it. I did try to share my screen, but it says the host disabled.
Let me just see if that can be fixed. Just give me a second. I'm just speaking to the.
Yeah, no problem.
Hi, can we help Sid share his screen? Sorry about this. These are some of the perils of working with long-distance technology.
Yeah, that is, of course, the challenges.
Yeah.
And if it won't work, I'm going to do it without slides as well. But let's give it a little bit more time. It's always nice, especially, normally when you're on stage, you can really, reach the audience. I think a slide is very useful. But otherwise, it will be a dry elevator pitch.
In which country are you joining us from, Sid?
At the moment, I'm in the Netherlands, in the harbor of The Hague, actually, close to the ocean, actually with the ocean view. So we will talk about seawater from a good location.
All right, I'm just speaking to Andre and Dennis, who are working on the back end to try and help you.
Okay, now let me just start.
Seems to be a system bug. They're unable to fix it from the back end.
Okay, no problem. I'll do it just like this then. Let's first take a step back. I want to start with sharing a bit of my, let's say, my spark, my journey. A long time ago, I went on a surf trip in Madagascar. I'm not sure. Have you ever been to Madagascar?
No, I haven't. I've been to Mauritius though.
Have you seen the animated movie about Madagascar?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that movie doesn't really resemble the true Madagascar. It's one of the 10 least developed countries in the world. And I was making my way there to the capital, from the capital to the coast. And there I met a couple of young boys. And these young boys, they were carrying water with a vehicle they crafted themselves. And I was a bit curious, so I stopped there and I talked with the boys and I tasted the water. And I found out that this water was unpotable. It was salty. It was brackish. It doesn't meet the World Health Organization standards. So these boys told me that every day they were hauling this water for 3 hours, and it wouldn't allow them to go to school. And of course, that sank in with me. And a couple of hours later, I found myself at the destination. I was lying under the sun in my surfboard in the abundant seawater. And that's where I really realized that these unlimited resources should be part of a solution for the problem of water scarcity. And that's when I decided to focus my education on water treatment and sustainable energy. And in 2012, I founded the company Elemental Water Makers. And Elemental Water Makers, what we focus on is turning seawater into clean water, into drinking water, using renewable energy. And we've been doing this since 2012. We're quite an awarded technology. And I think the problem that we work on is quite evident. So water scarcity, at this moment in time, there's already 4 billion people that face this phenomena. And the problem with this SDG is actually that the numbers are increasing. So currently 2/3 of the world population already faces water scarcity. But due to climate change, these numbers are only growing. Because there's more people wanting more drinking water, but mostly more food, energy and products, which are the large water footprint. So currently we're using 3.5 times the Earth's natural reserves of the water, which means half of our wetlands have disappeared in the past decades. So to me, water is really the biggest challenge for humanity in the 21st century. We see it in the news. We see in Chennai in India, we see droughts. It's in the summer. It's not a question anymore if there's going to be a drought. It's going to be more like who are next, and that's of course not a good situation.
Could you try screen sharing again? I think they may have fixed the problem. Are you able to do it now?
Let me check. No, it still says disabled, unfortunately.
Sorry about this. Continue. Sorry to
no problem. So the problem is clear: water scarcity. But if we look at the availability of water, let's say 70% of the Earth, as you can see behind me, is covered by water. So we have a lot of water, and of this water, only 3% is fresh water. So 97% is seawater. So to me, as an engineer, the key to access to more water lies partly in the sea. And desalination, the process of turning seawater into clean water, it's nothing new. It's been done for decades. If you go on holiday in the Caribbean or you go to the Middle East or Australia, you will just find yourself drinking desalinated water. But it's very energy intensive, which means that desalinated water automatically becomes expensive. But also it's a fossil intensive industry. And of course, we're trying to cope with water scarcity, but actually by desalinating water with fossil energy, we're only contributing to climate change, which leads to extended droughts and more intense floods, leaving the earth unable to capture the water. So we find ourselves in a vicious circle. And it's a technology, desalination, that's considered complex, not easy to maintain, only feasible at large scales. So these three issues were the main issues that my company said we're going to try to solve them. So we ask ourselves the question, how can we get fresh water today without limiting tomorrow? And what we did is we developed technology that is able to reuse the pressure from the reverse osmosis process. Now it gets a bit technical. But what we do normally for small scale desalination, you need 10 kilowatts for 1 cubic meter of water. And we came up with something that allows us to use 70% less, so only 3 kilowatt hours per cubic meter. It's called energy recovery, and it's a technology that we developed for small scale desalination between 5,000 and 1 million liters per day. And that allows us also to couple it with solar energy. And of course, we then need 3 times less solar panels. So what we can bring to our clients, it's a proposition of affordability and sustainability. And they go hand in hand. It's saving the expenses of water, while at the same time not having any emissions of CO2. And that's, I think, also crucial in this part of the business field, that you, first and foremost, for the clients, it's all about saving money. It's more like a nice to have that it's green. Of course, it's important for sometimes in the communication if you deal with resorts, but it's not always going to convince a buyer to go for a more expensive product. When it comes to water, it's also about reliability. And we do a lot of business in remote regions. So it's also very important that it's easy to maintain and to operate by local people. And we do that by using durable components, by remote monitoring, and by using automation. And that has led us in the past 8 years to be operational in 15 countries. Most of them are around the Caribbean, like Belize and the Virgin Islands. We're in Chile, we're in Colombia, we're in Mozambique, Tanzania, Madagascar, South Africa, Cape Verde, Philippines. So we have quite a global outreach up until this day. And for us, I think the key for our success is because there's a lot of end users for water. And of course, when we started out as engineers with the technology, we had to ask ourselves the question, which market are we going to focus on first? So we did quite strong customer development, also with the Climate-KIC acceleration program. And we interviewed possible end users, and we found out that resorts and private properties are the best starting market to build up a portfolio. And while we built up our portfolio, we could transfer more to do projects for communities through NGOs and charities, which we are doing more and more these days. So we do projects for resorts, for private properties, for industries, but also for communities and for water utilities and for irrigation. And I think it was 2 years ago that we actually were flown in by Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Emir of Dubai, to receive a Global Water Award. And we were selected out of 138 organizations that are active in solar desalination. So all the way in this journey from the tribesman in Madagascar to the Emir of Dubai. And that's really what it is, because at the end of the day, everybody needs water and everybody's interested in water. And yesterday I took some time off to think about advice, what would help me, because I know there's a lot of new passionate innovators today tuning in, ready to start a business. And of course, we had some learnings on the way as well. And I think what I want to share is because, especially as an engineer, there's always a niche, let's say a gap in terms of financing and sales and IP. But it's good to know that every startup is really different. So winning a pitch or award, even today, it will not make your business and it will not break your business. Remember that. Also, I would like to say that you should listen to everybody. There's a lot of people always wanting to coach you in your networks, but stay stubborn, because you're the only one who really sees the whole picture and who's really aware of all the situation. I think also once you found a scalable business model, it's really helpful to learn to say no, because especially if you're hot in the media, you're going to have a lot of attention and asked to do presentations and whatnot. But learn to say no and focus, because you have to get your traction up. And then you cannot do it alone. You have to have a committed and prepared team, also for the short term, but mostly also for the long term. Know what you're going to start, because that first roadmap that you're going to make, that has the hockey curve stick in 3 years, it might be 5 years, it might be 7 years. So also be aware of what you're starting. But at the same time, I would say enjoy the whole process, awkward meetings, failed ideas. You're working on something you believe in, and that's, I think, everything that counts. From our side, it's always never ending. So there's still a lot of entrepreneurship in our organization, although we're really in the scale-up phase. As you can imagine, with being an export company, exporting to overseas locations, COVID is not a business accelerator, especially with tourism as one of our main resources, one of our main markets. But what we did in the past 6 months, and we launched it only last week, is we developed an IKEA version of our technology, which is basically the world's first efficient solar desalination technology that's plug and play, that can be placed within half a day if you have the sea and the sun. Just as a celebration of entrepreneurship, that you're never there, it's always going to continue, and you always have to be innovative. So with that, I would like to leave it. I hope you want to join us in solving freshwater scarcity using only the sea, sun, earth, and wind.
Thank you, Sid.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The part I'm most curious about is, how does your technology actually work? What's the secret sauce in your technology?
Okay, so
how much?
let's say the desalination, it works just like a sieve. So when you desalinate water with reverse osmosis, you put a lot of pressure on the sieve, and only the H2O molecules are so small that they can travel through these small holes. Everything that's larger than H2O, so it's the salts, but also bacteria and the viruses, they will not go through the membrane, and they will be leaving the backside of the membrane as a separate flow. And for this, all you need is a membrane and a lot of pressure, which causes the energy. And what we did is we learned how to use this energy that's still in the saltier water, because there's still the same pressure on it. And we are able to use that energy to reduce the amount of energy the pump needs. So it works a bit like a turbocharger. So we take the pressurized flow and we turn that into motion, and that motion is brought to the pump. So the pump needs less electrical energy, and that allows us to save 70% on the energy.
Okay. One of the things that you said is in your advice to entrepreneurs, that listen to everybody, but be stubborn. And most people tell entrepreneurs to be flexible, do not be stubborn actually. So how does an entrepreneur know when to be stubborn and when to be flexible?
That's a good question. I think it's also a feeling that you have, and it's also something you will have to develop, because when you start out, you will not understand the market so well. So you mostly have to be curious and let's say critical. But once you've been there, once you've been to 50 countries, talked to 50 municipalities, water utilities, and 100 resorts, then you should be a bit more stubborn and understand your own, believe in your own experience. Because if you keep, if you keep changing your path, also it will be difficult to create a vision and a mission have your team focus on one direction. So I think the customer development part is where you might be more curious, but once you have the scalable business model, I think it's the part where you can be more stubborn.
As an entrepreneur working with an area that's going to impact climate change, what drives you? Let me give you options. The possibility that you'll make a lot of money, the possibility that you'll make a big difference to the world, or the possibility that you'll create a competitive product that's actually cheaper than regular water. What drives you?
For me, it's the second option, because we started out very idealistic. If I wanted to make money, I could have worked at a big oil company or a consultancy. But I think for me, it's really a passion. I can combine my passion with water in what I do. I have the feeling that this is really the biggest challenge for humanity, and there's too little people saying it. We're talking about renewable energy. When it's about climate change, it's always about energy, but it's never about water. It's not about growing coffee beans in India, which are imported in Europe, that actually have a huge footprint, like 400 liters per cup of coffee. There's no renewable water label yet. So all we do is energy. So I think because of the urgency will increase, the understanding will increase in the coming decades. And I think what we're doing now is we're leading the way really with a solution that only works unlimited resources. And for me, that gives the satisfaction. So I just want to help people, help communities. We actually, last year, we started a foundation and we donated a project for the community that I met in Madagascar. And I think those projects are the ones that that keep me and the whole team proud and going during the nights and the weekends.
That's it. So what are some of the competing ways of getting water? I've heard of water being condensed from atmospheric air, for instance.
Yeah. So when it comes to water, there's never one single solution. So if you have fresh water, you harvest the rain as much as you get because it comes free. You can treat groundwater and river water. That's, let's say, our conventional resources. But once they dry out, we have to go towards non-conventional resources. So there's a lot of, for example, mist nests that capture water at night and then condensate. This is more in the terms of liters per day, and then we talk about cubic meters per day. There's wastewater treatment. We can actually treat human feces to such an extent that it's potable. And of course, this is hitting two birds with one stone when it comes to the development aid. And then there's, at coastal locations, there's desalination of seawater. So I think there's a mixture of solutions, and at every different location, one of these solutions will be best of its value.
All right, Sid, thank you very much for talking to us.
It was a pleasure.
Do enjoy the rest of the global
and good luck to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Sid.